Dirty Harry wasn't just a cop movie, it was a cinematic gunshot that echoed through Hollywood. Gritty, cold, and unapologetic, it redefined the image of law enforcement on screen. Released in 1971, it turned Clint Eastwood into more than just a cowboy star. It made him the face of urban justice. But behind the smoking point, 4.4 Magnum were real dangers, casting battles, and inspirations pulled from headlines that terrified a city. This is where it all began. 1. The role that almost wasn't Clint's. Believe it or not, Clint Eastwood wasn't the first choice to play Harry Callahan. The role was first offered to Frank Sinatra, but he turned it down because of a hand injury. Then it went to John Wayne. He said no. Even Steve McQueen walked away. Finally, the script landed on Eastwood's desk. At first, the studio worried he was too tied to westerns. But Clint saw something. He said, "This isn't a cop. This is a gunslinger in the modern world." And just like that, Dirty Harry was born. 2. Inspired by a real killer, Harry Callahan's story didn't come from nowhere. The villain, Scorpio, was inspired by the real-life Zodiac killer who terrorized San Francisco in the late 60s. The script mirrored actual newspaper letters, police frustration, and even the city's paranoia. Watching the movie in 1971 wasn't just entertainment. It was like staring straight into San Francisco's biggest nightmare. For audiences at the time, Scorpio wasn't just a character. He was a reflection of a killer still on the loose. 3. Clint's near-death stunt. There's a famous scene where Harry dangles from a car on a busy San Francisco street. No stunt double, no wires, just Clint Eastwood clinging on while traffic rushed below. The director begged him to use a double, but Clint refused. He believed the audience could always tell the difference. One slip and it would have been the end of Eastwood's career, or his life. But he pulled it off. That's why the shot feels so raw. It wasn't acting. It was survival. 4. A studio fight behind the scenes. Warner Brothers didn't know what to make of Dirty Harry. Some executives thought it was too violent. Others thought the script was too right-wing and would spark protests. For months, the film bounced around in limbo. Eastwood, already a rising star, finally stepped in. He told the studio, "Make it my way or I walk." Suddenly, the suits backed off. What could have been another forgotten crime flick became a bold, risky project with Clint holding the steering wheel. 5. The most famous line was improvised. "Do you feel lucky, punk?" wasn't exactly on the page. The script had a longer, more technical version of Harry's monologue. Clint trimmed it down, added his own rhythm, and delivered it with that cold squint and a pause that made audiences hold their breath. That single improvised choice turned into one of the most iconic lines in cinema history, quoted, parodied, and remembered long after the credits rolled. 6th, police didn't like it. When Dirty Harry hit theaters, real police officers across the country protested it. Some said the film made cops look reckless, brutal, and above the law. Others argued it encouraged vigilante justice instead of real police work. The backlash got so loud that newspapers started calling Clint Eastwood Fascist Clint. But Eastwood brushed it off. He said, "This is just a story. The audience can decide." Ironically, many young officers later admitted the movie inspired them to join the force. 7. The gun that almost didn't exist. Harry's .44 Magnum became as famous as Clint himself. But here's the twist. At the time, the gun was almost impossible to find. It was a niche revolver, mostly used by hunters, and gun shops barely stocked it. After the movie, sales exploded. People stormed gun stores demanding the Dirty Harry gun. Overnight, a firearm that was nearly forgotten became one of the most recognizable weapons in the world, thanks to a single line of dialogue. 8. Insane real stunts. Dirty Harry's action wasn't built on special effects. It was built on risk. The rooftop chases, the bank shootout, the bus hijacking, almost all were shot with real danger. Extras panicked when blanks fired too close. Cars nearly collided during chase scenes. And Clint, again, refused to use doubles whenever possible. The grittiness audiences felt wasn't just the script, it was the fact that everyone on set was just a heartbeat away from real injury. 9. A real cop's influence. Harry Callahan wasn't just made up in a writer's room. The character was inspired by real San Francisco detectives the writers had interviewed. These cops were known for their short tempers, quick trigger fingers, and willingness to bend the rules to get the job done. One detective in particular carried himself with the same cold stare and blunt style Eastwood later used on screen. In many ways, Dirty Harry was less fiction and more a reflection of how brutal policing could be in the 70s. 10. Accidentally created a new genre. Before Dirty Harry, cop films usually showed officers as noble, clean-cut heroes. But Harry Callahan was different. He was angry, flawed, and brutal. That shift launched an entire wave of vigilante cop movies. Films like Death Wish and dozens of gritty crime dramas followed in its footsteps. Hollywood suddenly realized audiences were drawn to heroes who didn't always play by the rules. Dirty Harry didn't just change Clint's career, it changed the crime genre forever. 11. The Scorpio Killer's dark research. Andy Robinson, the actor who played Scorpio, prepared for the role in a disturbing way. He studied the real Zodiac Killer's letters and behavior. His creepy smile, his sudden mood swings, even the way he taunted Harry, all were pulled from real reports. Robinson admitted later that it disturbed him to stay in that headspace. And it worked. Audiences were terrified. Many even thought he was too convincing, because hate mail started pouring in for him personally. 12th. A constitutional debate on screen 1 of Dirty Harry's most controversial scenes is when Harry tortures Scorpio to get information. Lawyers, politicians, and even judges started debating the movie. Could evidence like that ever hold up in court? Was the film suggesting that police should ignore constitutional rights? For weeks, the movie wasn't just entertainment. It became part of a real national argument about justice versus law. Few Hollywood films had ever stirred such a heated legal conversation. 13. The Wardrobe Accident. Clint Eastwood's iconic look, brown sports coat, tie, and shoulder holster, wasn't carefully planned. On the first day of shooting, Clint arrived in the wrong wardrobe. Instead of sending him back, the director liked the look and decided to roll with it. That accidental outfit became one of the most imitated cop styles in cinema. Even Halloween costumes in the 70s copied it. Sometimes, legends are born from mistakes. 14. Real criminals on set. For extra realism, the production actually hired ex-cons and street toughs as background actors in some scenes. During filming, a few of them got into fights with the crew, and security had to break things up. But the director loved the edge it gave the movie. When you see those grim faces glaring at Harry, they weren't trained actors. They were people who had actually lived on the other side of the law. 15. Banned around the world. Not every country welcomed Dirty Harry. Some European nations, like Sweden and Finland, delayed or banned the film, calling it too violent and dangerously right-wing. In Australia, protests broke out at theaters. Even in the US, critics split down the middle. Some called it brilliantly raw, while others branded it fascist fantasy. But controversy only made the film hotter. Everywhere it was banned, bootleg copies spread like wildfire. 16. Andy Robinson was too scary. Andy Robinson's performance as Scorpio was so disturbing that casting directors avoided him for years. Producers thought audiences would only see him as a psychotic killer. To save his career, Robinson started choosing softer roles and even went into teaching. He later joked that Dirty Harry was both the best and worst thing that ever happened to him. 17. The line that defined. Clint Forever Eastwood made dozens of films, but fans always come back to one moment. "Do you feel lucky, punk?" That single line followed him everywhere. For interviews, parodies, even political speeches. Eastwood once admitted he got tired of it, but at the same time, he knew it had cemented him as a Hollywood icon. For better or worse, Clint and that .44 Magnum were now inseparable. 18. Shot on the streets of San Francisco. Unlike many crime films shot on studio lots, Dirty Harry filmed right in the heart of San Francisco. Crowds gathered daily to watch Eastwood in action. Locals said the city became a character itself. Foggy bridges, steep alleys, and wide-open piers. Those real locations gave the film its gritty atmosphere. To this day, fans still visit the exact spots where Harry stood, gun drawn. 19. A record-breaking hit. Despite protests and bans, Dirty Harry smashed the box office. It became Warner Brothers' most profitable film of 1971 and one of the top-grossing crime movies ever made at the time. Studios realized controversy didn't hurt. It sold tickets. The success instantly greenlit sequels, and Harry Callahan became a franchise that stretched across 17 years and 5 films. 20. A hero and a villain at the same time. Critics never stopped arguing about Harry Callahan. Was he a hero fighting evil, or was he just as dangerous as the criminals he hunted? That moral gray area is what made the movie timeless. Unlike clean-cut heroes of old Hollywood, Harry was messy, violent, and flawed. He made audiences uncomfortable, and that's exactly why they couldn't look away. Bonus: Dirty Harry's legacy. Dirty Harry didn't just change Clint Eastwood's career, it changed Hollywood. It made studios bolder, heroes darker, and villains scarier. Its DNA can be seen in everything from Lethal Weapon to Training Day. Even decades later, Harry Callahan's cold stare and his magnum are symbols of a cinema that dared to cross the line. If you enjoyed these weird facts about Dirty Harry, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more cool movie stuff. Got any fun facts we missed? Drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one.